like right at 42.8%. Almost exactly what we failed them at. They've been able to pretty much keep it at the same level.
Okay. Okay.
I don't have a map to actually show that.
Okay. But as they currently sit, 42.8, and what I saw.
Because of the population that we lost.
And what I saw, the only in District 2 is really high because of the prisons.
And District 3 was outside of the threshold, I think.
Too high? Okay.
Because I was in my seat.
I hope you're ready. Actually, down.
I'm ready.
You're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, I'll call the meeting back to order. Mr. Quick, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate Andrew coming back to be with us today to make sure we stay within the legal limits of the law. We have worked, when I say we, Chris has spent a lot of time on this as always, and Hope has spent some time on this, and I've spent some time on this. And we have to present to you today 4 proposals to start with. And again, these are starting points based off of the data. Please feel free to make any comments. I'm going to try to run through the maps and explain them as best as possible to make them as clear as possible. So what you have on the screen now, well, what you had on the screen was our current district boundaries. So the first goal that I asked Chris to look at was, okay, create a map as best as you can that fits the character of the current districts as best as possible. And let's see what that does for us. So as you see in front of you here, this is what we're calling map 2A. And so this is the map that we think as close as possible resembles what we currently have. As you go to the top of the districts, to District 5, and you'll see this pretty consistent at District 5, you will see that does bring in a top corner of District 2 to kind of square up District 5 to be all north of Route 3, all north of 360. And you'll see from these numbers, if you look at the spreadsheet, you'll see that District 5 has a really good population at 1590, which is only plus 10 over the target number we're looking at of 1580. So District 5 is going to be pretty consistent in everything you see. Also, what's going to be pretty consistent is going to be District 3. District 3 is orange. That is going to be the town of Warsaw's district, and it's going to go out outside of the town a little bit. One of our goals as we were creating districts was to try as hard as possible to bring all of the town of Warsaw within one voting district. And we've got some maps that do that, and we've got some maps that don't do that, and I'll explain it, but I think we can make that work. Districts 1 and 2, as I told you a couple weeks ago, have been our greatest challenges for 2 reasons. Number 1, the majority minority district is District 1, and District 2 includes Haynesville Correctional Center, which we are now having to count in a different way that we had to count in 2011. So these have been our districts that we have spent the most amount of time on, and as a result, District 4 is seeing some changes. So as you look at this map here, really some of the major differences between our current map and what you're seeing here. District 1 does pick up a small finger down in the Robley area, and it loses the canal area that it used to have right there around Farnham Manor, Schoolhouse Meadows. I think when we look at the racial breakup of this, we are seeing that the District 1 that you're looking at here has a racial breakdown of 43.05%. That currently, when I say currently means 2011, that District 1 had a 54% breakdown of majority-minority. I think I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago that through the census data numbers, we lost a black population of about 250 in that current District 1, which is really giving us a hard time getting that district back to that minority-majority. We've got another map we'll get to here later in the day to show that a little bit differently. and kind of why it's not possible to get to that breakdown. So this is proposal 2A. This is again our effort to keep the maps as similar as possible. Chris, if you go to 2B, 2B is going to be very similar. You're going to see a little bit of a difference between 2A and 2B. Again, the idea was to keep it as similar as possible. What you see here is you see this district actually, and when I say this district, I'm really kind of talking about District 1 to talk about it. You see it coming down to the riverfront. So you see it starting at Toteski Creek and running down to just north of Sharps. It pulls in a little bit of that riverfront and it reduces a little bit of that land up. It gets rid of that finger. So if you go back to 2A, Chris, you see how that little finger down towards Robley really makes District 4 a horseshoe. You know, it starts up at the riverfront and comes all the way around, swooping around, with District 1 really being in the middle of it. So as you go back to 2B, you'll see that getting rid of that finger down towards Robley and picking up that riverfront around Suggett's Point, Riverdale area makes it a little bit more compact and makes District 4 not as much of a horseshoe. When you look at the racial breakdown of District 1 at this point, you're at 42.79% in this scenario, and in the 2A scenario, you were just a little bit over 43%. So materially, no difference there. Again, District 2 has really had to shrink down in size based off of the, 250 of the inmates that we are now having to count from Haynesville Correctional Center. This was a topic at the last meeting, and as we were discussing it, we were talking about the racial breakdown of District 2, how with Haynesville Correctional Center, it was showing that it was getting greater than 50% in that minority majority. I think the board felt that it was kind of a backdoor attempt at really legitimately saying that there was a majority-minority district. Because it really wasn't. So what Chris has done is Chris has gone in and kind of manipulated the numbers a little bit to make some different calculations and divisions, bringing that population out to show what our true effective breakdown is of District 2. So so are there any questions at this point on the two maps that we have tried to create that show the boundary lines as close to possible as 2011? Okay, hearing none. Chris, if we could go to 1A. 1A is map that is a much cleaner looking map. Again, no need to talk about District 5, no real need to talk about District 3. This map does bring all of the town of Warsaw within District 3. You'll see really the main change is District 1. District 1 is kind of the district that we're going to talk the most about. You'll see, and you can see on these maps, some imposed red lines within, and they're hard to understand what they are unless you really focus in on it. But as you remember District 1 had that funny little intersection right there at Toteski Creek, right at the bridge, and then feathered back out to get into the town of Warsaw, get back across 360 over into the bypass area into Skytown. This eliminates that. So this pretty much takes District 1 from Toteski Creek down to Sharps, and then it runs it pretty lengthwise across the county over to Haynesville. It takes in the south side of Toteski Church Road, and it takes in the right side or the southeast side of Fallontown Road. It makes District 4 a more contiguous and compact map, which is something that we have an effort to try to make our maps compact and contiguous. As you look at the population variations at the far right category, at the top right spreadsheet, you'll see that this map right here is within our plus or minus 5% in all ways. District 3 is a touch high at 70, at plus 70. District 4 is a little bit low at minus 61. You can't, you be realistic and say, okay, well, let's just take some of District 3's population and give it to District 4. Well, obviously District 3 and District 4 do not touch because of District 1. So it's not as easy to pull those population numbers apart. Proposal 1B, you're not going to see any difference in this, and I'm going to ask Chris to focus in on one area. And this was an effort to look at what it would do to the racial population of District 2. So as you remember, 1A brought the entire town of Warsaw into District 3. This map here is including a portion of the town of Warsaw. Chris, if you could just kind of put your mouse where we're looking. I'm looking over at the Walnut Maple area behind the BP, around the school, near the IDA building. There's a racial population there that we were trying to see what that would do to District 2 if we were to pick that up into District 2 as opposed to District 3. You can probably zoom back out now, Chris. And it doesn't do anything. It materially. If you look at District 2 in this scenario, we're at 35.03% majority minority. When you go back to 1A, you're at 33.36. So bringing that little segment of the town of Warsaw into District 2, it's a 1.5 change, and it doesn't really get you any close to that 50% number. So this map would clean the districts up, obviously. It gets you a minority majority. The highest minority majority would be District 2, removing prison population, doing the other calculations is 33.36. Chris, if you could go back to just 2A. And that's District 2, so 33% District 2. Going back to Proposal 2A, this is trying to keep the districts as close as possible. Again, District 1, majority population, 43.05%. Now you might ask, okay, we're at 43.05%. You say we can't get to 50% in this district. Tell me why you can't get to 50% in this district. Chris has done another map that's going to show a little bit more detail. So through Chris's program, he can ask the program to highlight any census data parcel that has a black population greater than 43%. You ask, why 43%? Well, you go back to that map and you see, okay, we've got 43%. What parcels in the county could we pick up that have that population greater than 43%? Because if you find a parcel that's only got 40%, it's going to continue to bring that number down below 43%. So where are we greater than 43%? And so the hatched areas, and so the current District 1, you see it in that purple shade, and you see a lot of those hatched areas already in District 1. So let's go to District 5. Let's go to the Newland area of the county. So you've got a parcel over off of let's just call it Talent Town, Piney Grove, and that near Route 3. You go to the midsection of District 5, and you've got a small parcel up there. Where are we? New Zion. Okay. So you've got those two parcels that the system has identified as greater than 43%. You have a parcel down right north of 360, I guess right around Newland Road area. Then as you go into the District 2 area, you see Haynesville, and you see, I guess that's the correctional center. That's the parcel that includes the correctional center. And then you've got that small parcel along 360 right there. Everything else, with the exception of that let's go to District 4. Let's go all the way to the bottom. Let's go near Route 3, and you see that hatched area. That hatched area is not in current District 1 or any of the proposed Districts 1, and it can't be because District 4 has got to connect. You've got to have some sort of connection there for District 4. So you would think, okay, we pick up that area, that could get us a little bit higher. And it separates District 4 right in the middle. I'll stop there because, and then you've got a couple other hatched areas up in the further end of Newland. So ultimately, like I said 2 weeks ago, and I don't even know if it would be possible that way, you start snaking a district throughout the county Well, you're grabbing so much population along the way to even get to these areas. You know, our target number is 1580. When it breaks down our total population divided by 5, our number is 1580. So you start snaking a district that hits all of these different segments. I mean, you're picking up 22, 23, 2,500 people, and you're no longer making districts that are compact and contiguous. So go back to, I don't really know where we need to go back to at this point. Just go back to map 2A. And that just kind of takes us back to our closest possible option, 2A or 2B. 2B is probably a little bit better of a map because it doesn't completely horseshoe District 4 at the bottom with that little finger at Robley. It creates District 4 a little bit better, but you've still got District 1 that does that funny movement, you know, right around the bridge on Route 3 and then kind of fans back out to get bypass property and gets over to Three-Way Road a little bit, Bell's Drive area, and then comes back down into District 3 around Islington, Welford's Wharf area. So I'm going to stop there and answer any questions or discussions y'all may have.
While they're thinking, Andrew,
Yes, sir.
would you like to make any comments?
Well, I
So
think
far?
staff has done a really good job. Do I need to go to the mic?
Wherever you're comfortable.
I think the staff has done a really good job of taking the criteria that we talked about at our last time we were together and try to apply the sort of real world of what you're sitting here faced with. You know, the requirements of the racial minority district is really the most difficult one. I mean, you lost, what, 250 from 2011? I mean, that's a lot to make up in a small rural county, especially when you've lost overall population. You know, I think that, you know, as I said before, it's going to appear that you can make a racial majority district, as you were able in 2011. I think it's incumbent upon you to establish why not. You know, you asked that question in the middle of your presentation, Morgan, and that's absolutely the question that I'm sure that the Attorney General's office is going to be asking. Well, why not? Well, I think that, you know, you mentioned snaking all the way through the county. I mean, I suggest that you create a map that does snake all the way through the county and picks up all of those big chunks of majority, or at least over 43% minority, and then prove that it then violates other criteria, like you've got to be more or less the same population. Well, we can't do that. In order to pick up a majority, a population of the minority citizens, we are going to have one district substantially bigger than the others. And so, I mean, I think that we continue going down this road. It's about picking one of these district maps that makes the most sense to y'all. But, I mean, if you take that map right there and you create a big, long, snaky district, I mean, eventually, yeah, you can pick up enough population to be 50% majority. Maybe, but maybe not. But even if you're able to, it's going to not be within the 5% mark that you're aiming for. So, but my suggestion is, let's create a few maps, not because we really think they're going to be appropriate to adopt, but because they prove that it won't work. And I think that that's really what the Attorney General's office is going to want to know. Beyond that, you know, once you realize that you're not going to get beyond, you know, that 43%, then, I mean, I think that at that point in time, you settle down on the traditional criteria, compact, contiguous, more or less the same population, and you do your best with that. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
I can tell you that this afternoon, I did try to pick up the area around Town. In order to do that, you end up having to lose a lot of this area down below Indian Field in District 2, and you have to cut off part of the area around Village because the population numbers become too large. But even doing that, I was still in the 35% range.
For District 2.
For District 2.
For District 2.
You know, if you tried to come up through here and connect to this block, because this is a block of over 100 people. So it's not insignificant, but you end up picking up, you know, these blocks in between as well, and you would have to lose some blocks in here and down here to get your numbers back down.
And as you pick up the blocks between it, it's going to further dilute that number because you can't just skip blocks.
Right.
And so you might say, okay, I can get to 50% here, but it's counterbalanced by what you had to go to get to it.
That's exactly right.
Well, the census data speaks for itself in many respects. Citizens live where they live. So it's really about picking and choosing amongst maps that honor all the criteria and honor the Voting Rights Act and the Rights of Voters Act, and make sure that we've addressed those issues. And it sounds like to me we can get to about 43%, and that's about it. It's not that much different from a case that we had back in, maybe it was the 2001 redistricting that we had in Goochland. And we had a black majority district, District 2. And same kind of thing. We had a number of subdivisions in that area. And so we had a growing population. But because the subdivisions were largely not minority population, it diluted that district, and there was simply no way to draw a black majority district that made any sense. And so what we did is we shipped off to the Justice Department not only the maps that we considered, adopting, but also the maps that we couldn't possibly adopt, just to show if we take this criteria of the majority minority district and take it to what is needed in order to attain that goal of 50%, then it violates these other criteria, and we can't have that. So, I think in the end, you're just going to have to do your best to attain all of the goals at the same time. And if there's no way to do it, there's no way to do it.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Walter? You or your wife have any questions, would like to ask anything while the county attorney is with us about this?
I'd like to know, design, what is the population in District 1? Population in District 1.
Right now?
Right now,
Right now. I'm saying, I heard you mention losing a couple hundred people. So is that all in District 1?
okay, so if you look at the map that Chris has just put up on the screen, this is the current districts with the 2020 census data. So you will see that the District 1 population is 1538. Okay, so the top line, you'll see a 1538 is the total population. And then you with the adjustments that the state is doing this year, it takes you to the total persons of 1518, total black 618, and then it's a table that combines different races as people reported on their census data. So right now, is that all the data we have? So right now the population is 1,500. No, go back, Chris, to the left. 1518, I'm sorry. And then you got the adjusted population of 1538. And that adjusted population is the number that we're working off of for the census data. Chris told me before the meeting that the current District 1, with the current population in the old district, was 42.8% minority majority? Is that what it was? 42.8. So the district as it currently stands right now, old district line, new population line came out to 42.8, and I know that in 2011, I think that number was 54.2, give or take. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And the way I'm calculating that, this adjusted population, the racial breakdown numbers that we have from the census are not given to us with the same adjustments that the total population is. So in order to get true percentages, you have to compare your racial breakdown to your total persons to get a true percentage. So the way I'm coming up with that 42.8 is I'm adding all of these columns to the far right. So this is where people reported themselves as black alone, and then this would be black plus one additional race. So if you combine all of these numbers to the right and then divide them into this total persons, that's where you come up with the 42.8%.
Is that a minority majority?
That is the district that we adopted back 10 years ago. Yes. But the percentage is significantly gone back. 54.
Anybody else have any questions? If you think of something else, Walter, just let me know. Either one of y'all, anybody. All right, where you want to go from here?
The lines, District 1, coming up on 3, when, I guess, west, coming up on 3. On form, where did District 1 include us now?
Are you talking about in 2011?
Now. Coming up on 3.
Well, you're talking about on the proposed maps. On the proposed maps.
On the proposed map, you want
I think he's looking at the proposed, he's talking about the proposed maps. If you would go back to 2B. So on 2B, it would, District 1 would get to Mulberry, and it would remain on the right side, on the south side of Route 3, all the way down, not to the county line, but down to, I guess, Farnham Creek. And then it would swoop back in off Farnham Creek and run back into, I guess, Ivandale and Hussey's Creek a little bit. Sharps would obviously remain a District 4, and then on this proposal here, it brings it down Suggett's Point and Riverdale and Shandy Hall back over to Toteski Creek, all the way back up to Route 3. That would be this proposal, which is 2B, which is closest to what we have, which shows the minority population a percentage of 42.79%. And then the other one, Chris, on 2A, which shows the funny little area down on the opposite side of Farnham Creek, that's got the 43.05. So you're less than a point difference on these two maps, but this one makes District 4 really horseshoe around District 1. So that was why Chris created the map of 2B that shows it going down to the riverfront, making District 4 a little bit more contiguous, and it only impacts the population breakdown by less than 1%, 42.5 versus 43.05.
So what I'm looking at there, where you had your that, by taking that out, putting that in the yellow, and then taking all that down to Suggs Point and everything right in there, and putting it in the purple. That changed from 43 to 42. That's, but it made the yellow a little bit more contiguous or close or whatever, so you didn't have that big wraparound. That's your idea there?
Right, so you're actually looking at only 42.79% versus 43.05%, so 0.25% difference by making those two arrangements to make sure that the population numbers remained totally, within that plus or minus 5% of that 1580 number that our target is.
I can't read the numbers, but just read them down. What are the percentages, with that right there, what are the percentages? What are they?
You're talking about the minority percentage?
Yes.
Okay, so District 1, 42.79, District 2, 20.94, District 3, 26.44, District 4, 19.18, and District 5, 17.16.
I got you, okay.
And that's not counting the prison population, correct?
That's correct. Chris has gone, yeah, so the right column it includes the prison population. We have tried to make the number separate of that so we can get a really true picture of it and not artificially inflate a number.
Right.
Okay, so you're not counting, to arrive at the numbers, you're not counting campsite or prison population.
Correct. We're not, they're having to be counted in the total population because of the new legislation from 2020. But in order to get a more accurate picture, we're not counting them in these statistics so that we don't artificially inflate a number and we can look at an accurate voting number.
Got a question over here.
Question.
Go ahead.
Is the prison population legally allowed to vote? Or are they still?
No, and so we had this discussion last time. At our previous redistricting, there was a code section in the state that allowed counties that had a population in which their prison population was greater than 12% of the total county population, they could be removed from the county. Because in a small county like Richmond County, 300 people or 400 people really changes numbers big time. I mean, it could be 20, 30% of a district. Legislation was passed in 2020 that required the state to reallocate prison numbers. So instead of there being 1,100 people at Haynesville, what the new legislation requires is that anyone incarcerated, they get counted back at their last known address within the state of Virginia. If they don't have a last known address or that last known address is outside of the state of Virginia, they come back to the county where the prison is. So for Richmond County's purposes. Because that 12% rule was taken out with the new legislation, we are now having to count about 249 inmates at Haynesville as part of our population because of the new language change, where we didn't have to count that before. The regional jail is a little bit different because they have always been in the numbers for Richmond County because the thought was jail versus prison. You've got people in jail that might still have voting rights, because they might be awaiting a sentence or just being held for a certain reason. So that's the prison dilemma this year.
I was just curious as to whether they had any sort of voter rights, they could vote absentee, or are they considered constituents, or not until they come out the outside of the prison? Andrew would know this, but I would say that if they're in prison, they've been convicted of a felony, and until they are released and get their voting rights reinstated, they would be non-voters.
That's right. That's right.
There's still people in jails that have misdemeanors, no felonies, don't they still have voter
At the
rights?
regional.
At the regional jail, I'm talking prison. I'm talking,
Okay.
and that's where your difference is between your jail and your prison.
I was just trying to figure out, morally, should we consider them constituents or not? And so that's what always was, the argument in 2011 was we were able to remove all of Haynesville from our population, our countable population, but we did not remove Northern Neck Regional Jail for that very reason.
Understand. Thank you. Hey, Morgan.
Yes, sir.
If I could take you back to the compacted contiguous option that y'all worked on.
Let's go to 1A.
I mean, from a compacted contiguous perspective as well as from, more or less equal in population, it is obviously the shining star of those options. District 1, really all of them have, some weird sort of bits, but this sort of cleans all of those up. What does this do to all the minority population, though?
Okay, so this clean copy, District 1, 30.83, District 2, 33.36, District 3, 27.92, 4, 19.68, 5, 17.16.
Yeah.
So you're going from a minority population of 43% to a minority population of 33.36%.
Yeah, as attractive as it is in many respects, I certainly can't recommend this map. It just, I think it's going to raise too many red flags. You go from 42 or 43 possible down to 30. Yeah,
Pretty important division.
it's very important. Anyway, I just wanted to be refreshed about those numbers. Visually, it looks a whole lot better.
Oh, it's very clean.
Yeah.
Chris, go back to 2B, please. 2B, so District 1. District 1, and even at this 42.79% number, Andrew, look over to the left and look at the population number. It's 4.74% high. So I mean, it's nearing that too high of population threshold.
So you can't take it in another census block or it'll blow you off. Yeah.
Right. And you can't lose anything in there that would change anything because of the way they would connect to the census blocks you need. It would remove that puzzle piece, and you wouldn't be able to get there from here.
Does this look very different from the previous, or the current?
No, ma'am. So it looks a little bit different, but the purpose of this map here was to try to create as close as possible to a district. So this is a proposal here. Chris, could you go back just to the map we're currently under?
Sure. You want to see the one?
That one right there. So this is the 2011, and I can get you copies, Maxine, of these maps. So they look relatively similar. The difference really in District 1 here is that you get a little bit more up into towards Westmoreland, and you come a little bit further east towards Three-Way. But it's as close as possible with the numbers working to what we currently have adopted.
Andrew, from a legal standpoint, which one is our safest bet to get through Richmond?
I'd say 2A or 2B. It sounded like the numbers were so close, what, 0.5% or something like that?
Quarter of a percent.
What's that?
I think it was about a quarter of a percent.
Quarter of a percent. I don't think there's any real substantive difference between those two. I'd pick which one you think is better. I would say 2B probably, just because it's a little more compacted, contiguous. It avoids that horseshoe issue a little bit.
That one right there.
Yeah, I mean, I,
Do you want to talk about the more?
six one, half dozen the other from a legal perspective, but I think this one probably gets the nod, if only because it's probably more compact and contiguous than the other.
So on this map here, I think Hope just mentioned to me, so one of our goals internally when we were doing this was trying to get the town of Warsaw completely within District 3. This map here is not going to accomplish that, and it's not a huge, and that's another separate issue on polling places and precincts. When towns are not wholly within a district, it could force us to create a new precinct for in-town voters that are in this district, because the voting precinct for District 1 is Jerusalem. So the town voters go to Jerusalem to vote for town elections. It could be possible that we would have to create a 1B precinct for this small section in town, which is your high school, Walnut, Maple area, where those voters don't have to go outside of the town to vote. And I think, and I'd be interested to see, Chris, I mean, we saw what that did to District 2 when we included it versus didn't include it, and it was only, go back to 2A and 2B. I mean, 1A and 1B, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1A and 1B. All right, so
That's the one that has the whole town in it, right?
all right, so that's the whole town, so that was a 33.36. I guess I'm just looking at what I expect it to do to the minority number. So it was 33.36. I think the other one was 35. So it was about a 1.5% difference. So if you go back to 2, it doesn't matter, 2B or 2A, and you were to try to bring all of the town into District 3, you would be probably moving that 43% number to a 42% number. So that would be a...
That one doesn't have the whole town in it?
No, it's got that Walnut Maple area still in District 1.
And to the high school on down.
I like that little spot, Chris, that Walnut Street,
Highlight the spot we're talking about,
yeah,
right in here.
right in there, yeah.
And because it's a minority area,
Oh, okay.
we kept it the same between 2A and 2B. It's in District 1 in both maps.
What would happen if you just took that out,
And put it back into District 3?
yeah, and put it back into District 3?
I think you'd lose about 1%. I think you would reduce your minority from a 43 to probably a 42, because in the other scenarios, we've got that switched between District 2. One shows it in, one shows it out, and it changes the numbers about 1%. But it could help. All right, let's see. Go back to that total population number, Chris. We're really high there, aren't we? We're 1655, so we're at 4.74%.
Right.
Do you remember off the top what that block consisted of, total population?
Oh, I can tell you. So, you've got 34 people there, another 36.
So you got your 70 there.
11, 34, 36, and 11.
So you got 80. So if you were to remove that and put it back into, so you would remove that 80. That would get you back pretty close to that number, but you're putting that 80 back to District 3. And what's our District 3 number right now on that proposal?
On
District 3 is minus 12, so you would take them to effectively over 70. You know, you'd be 70 plus on them at that point. So you'd just be kind of flip-flopping that 4.74% difference.
Still within the percentage of adjusted population.
Right. But we could create some more, that wouldn't be hard. We could create more maps that show that going back to District 3 and what that actually does. I'm guessing it changes that 42.79% to a 41.79%, but we could get closer on that.
How does that affect the grid for the census grid? Is that all, that one little block in that?
We're always following the blocks, so what you're seeing here, some of these are roads, but these are also the boundaries that the census uses. So when I click on a polygon, that is a census block.
Okay.
So we would, right now, with that, the way that map is drawn, we would have to have a voting precinct for those 100 people.
How do you view that new law, Andrew?
Well, it's problematic. I mean, certainly, I mean, the law provides now that whereas it used to be you could have split precincts, and now it's basically saying, no, you can't have split precincts. So I think you're pretty much required to have the town boundary be the boundary, and I hope the state is going to honor that too. So I think I'm back to 2A. It's kind of like one's more compact and contiguous, but the other one has the entire town boundary inside of one district.
But I think we could, what number are we on, Chris? I've lost track. Is this 1 or 2?
This is 2B.
2B. So we could remove that little section of town and throw that back to District 3. All of the town would then be in District 3. Now, District 3 still expands way outside the town of Warsaw. Is that a problem?
No, that's not a problem. I mean, ultimately, that's going to be controlled by having a precinct and a polling place distinction. People would go in to the polling place, and if they live inside the town, they'd go to one set of voting machines and not the other, or they'd be given one ballot instead of another.
Right. Now, it would be nice to clean that up. I mean, right now, we've got town voters voting in 3 different precincts between District 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's a mess.
All right, we can see what that does to our numbers.
What does that do to the minority population?
I think it's going to reduce it about 1%, 1.2. So I think you're going to go from 42.79 to maybe 41.5.
The state's done a number on you guys by adopting all these mandates.
Thank
It's
you.
like, you're jumping from one to the other.
I guess I'll ask the board this question as you look back, when you think about those 2 maps. Andrew's clearly kind of giving you a recommendation. You've got 2 options. You've got one that brings District 1 to the riverfront, and you've got one that keeps District 1 off the riverfront.
I'd say take it to the riverfront would be my thought.
And that's the one that's
District 1.
more compact and contiguous.
Right.
And the percentage is higher there, right?
It's what, 0.2% difference?
Yeah, it isn't a quarter of a percent.
So did you do that?
Yeah. Let's see if it's updated. Yes, it is.
So that makes District 3 1660, which puts them 4.43% too high, but still within our margin. And it puts District 1 to 1573, which is -7, which is about as close as you can get. It would be the closest to 1580. But can you tell me what that does with our percentage?
There's nowhere going down Route 3 that could go into District 1,
Nowhere going down Route 3.
where it's one on one side and one on the other.
So then you'd be pulling out of 2 or 4, which are already 41 and 32 too low.
Is all of Marlboro taken in that one, or does Marlboro split?
Mulberry is split.
Which one are we looking for?
2A.
Making a
2B.
change dropped it to 41.8, so it was exactly 1%.
All right, so that change made District 1 41.8%, which was exactly 1%, by bringing all of the town of Warsaw into District 3 and losing the Maple Walnut area. Now, as you go down Mulberry, you're gonna split right there at Murphy's place. Let me find it. Or is that an
What do
old
we
map,
wanna
Chris?
do?
Zoom to Mulberry.
Sure. All right, so Mulberry's gonna be here.
Okay, so Mulberry, so you're gonna have, District 1 would have Mulberry,
To the power line.
to the power line. And District 2 would
That's
pick it
on,
up.
that's on the Haynesville side of the stream, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. Here's the streams right here. And that's where it is currently.
Right.
Where's the firehouse in Farnham on that one, Chris?
Right.
All right, so it's still in District, could be in District 4.
It's right here.
Okay. So that way it leaves all the polling places, that one leaves all the polling places pretty much intact too, right?
What was the answer to that question? Yes?
I think we're thinking, but yeah, it should. Yeah, because Rappahannock is right there.
Right, that puts that in. Farnham Firehouse is in.
Is in Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem is in. Obviously, the courthouse is in.
Right, so it keeps them all in.
Can I throw a curveball in all of this?
Oh, God.
No?
Thanks a lot.
Let her go.
Yeah, you let her
Well,
go.
I mean, obviously, the prison population can't vote, and so that's really an issue that I know is of concern. But would there be a way to create a black majority district or a higher percentage by simply including prison into District 1? Or does that just not make any sense at all?
We did when we were playing around with maps the other day, tried to come up and to grab it into District 1. I think it gets diluted so much. It was easier to try to go that route if District 2 became the majority minority, since they already had the prison. And that's why we were showing those percentages as well on the map.
But in doing that, knowing that the prison population doesn't vote, you hadn't given a true.
You haven't
number.
protected the voting
You,
position of the minority population.
it
That's right.
shows, but it's not
It's not true.
accurately true that the vote counts.
I understand.
And that's been a concern of mine, I if somebody can see something, I just don't know how to make it work and keep the numbers balanced so we meet the criteria which is set forth to us.
one are we looking at right now?
2.
2B?
This is 2B.
Okay. Gotcha.
Could you zoom back out, Chris?
No, that's not without, that's without the whole town, right?
Right, he's gonna have to, he would have to go back and make that one again. He's made that in the actual program.
And
Right.
it changes this down to 41.8 instead of 42.7.
Say that again, I just,
It would, if we made the change they were talking about for District 1's percentage, which on this map is 42.79, it would drop it down to 41.8.
Does the apartments, the time of the census is what they go by, that could change status.
Tomorrow, today,
I
yesterday.
mean, when the lease runs up, so,
You gotta look at a snapshot in time.
That's all you can do.
And you know, regarding that prison population, I had a phone call last week. I called a lady with the state, asking her, I know it's a little different, but asking her about that 12% rule, and she kind of told me that it was an oversight as they drafted new language. It was kind of an oversight that 12% language got removed because of how big of an impact that is. Even with adjusting prison populations back to their last known addresses, there's a thought that the rural counties are going to still see an increase because you're going to attribute some of them back. And it influences things a lot. And she said it was an oversight. And simply, these are the numbers, this is what you have to work with, and maybe for 2031, you know, that gets added back in. But and I guess I did say that last week, 2 weeks ago. I mean, if we wanted to wait on these maps and go back to the General Assembly in the spring of this year and see if they would be inclined, I don't think it's going to change. It's certainly not going to change your minority. It's not going to make you now have a minority majority district again. I don't believe, but it's gonna you would be able to take some of that out. But I don't know if you can hinge on the General Assembly this spring. I don't know that you can count on that.
now unless there's some other candidates that's having the same issue, you know, all join up together, but might make a little noise that way. I mean, I don't have it's affecting Mecklenburg.
No, Mecklenburg and Mecklenburg's a bigger county. I mean, they're 38,000. Greensville County, I would imagine and I'd be interested to talk to Greensville. They've got a population similar to ours, 10 or 11,000 people with a large prison population. Sussex, same thing. I'd be interested to see if they're seeing these same dilution numbers. I'll reach out to them.
And we're running on a time frame, so that's of no choice of ours. Deadlines are upon us. But I would be curious to know if they're having the same type scenario, and then could that get the General Assembly to stop for a second and pause and maybe try to do something? So just for clarification, the time frame, December 31st to have this done.
Under the current statute, that's correct.
Okay. There's no, and we got to act.
I mean, the only thought I have about getting some kind of an extension is the General Assembly could meet in the spring and adopt emergency legislation and, you know, give everybody an extension of time. The other thought I had was that we could petition the court. It does provide for a citizen petition. If the board fails to redistrict as required by law, the judge can order, you know, basically issue a writ of mandamus to say, dear board, you must redistrict. We could, petition the court under that, and then the court could order you to do it and then give you until like March 31st to do it. I mean, that's another
good
option.
to do it more time.
Yeah,
I don't
What's the
understand.
point in, I mean, if these are the options we have, whether we do it in December or do it in March or April, it's not gonna change
That's right.
the facts that we have
It's
to
going
work
to be
with.
tough decisions no matter when you do it.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's right. What does, we're just putting off something that's inevitable.
yeah, I agree. I don't see, none of them are ideal.
I don't think the ideal district anywhere in this country exists.
No, I don't either.
Mr. Ball, do y'all agree that Chris and his staff has done everything they could?
I believe so.
I mean,
I think he has what is feasible, what is supposed to.
as close to perfect as we can get.
As you said, people live where they live.
Yes, ma'am.
And they happen to be scattered such that it's almost impossible.
Because, I mean, I believe,
Generally what we'd like to see put in place.
Right,
I
exactly.
think everybody in the county respects y'all's opinion, and, your leadership's gonna be important. By going out in the public and saying they did everything they could. So I just want to make sure that y'all see the picture, like, I don't see anything else we can do.
Unless you do something that doesn't make sense.
Right.
I have no objection to what I've seen with either 2A and 2B or 2B.
Too big.
2A, 2B.
Either one of those would make sense to me.
Thank
Going
you.
into every parcel and try to make every little parcel try to fit and work. It's not,
Well, if the choice is 2A or 2B and either one suits, then I would go with the one that preserves the town boundary, because that at least avoids another issue that you have to deal with.
So we have to schedule a public hearing?
Yeah, we need to schedule a public hearing if we picked out something that we've got to show the public, rather than go through all of this.
So which
and go
one kept
to a
up?
public hearing with, we got 5 options.
Time out real quick. Chris, how long would it take you to go and build that map with the town of Warsaw boundary being right and seeing accurate statistics so we can all look at the exact same thing?
Not an extreme amount of time, I mean,
Like-
an hour.
Oh, okay. I thought like 10 minutes, sorry.
No, I mean, I could, well, to produce the map with, and just to verify and to make sure that I'm comfortable with this chart. I mean, I feel like we're right with that 41.8%. But yeah.
Okay, so just to go back to this map, this is the one that takes District 1 to the riverfront. It keeps District 4 more compact and contiguous, very similar to what the current District 4 looks like. And it would preserve that town boundary around the school to make all of the town of Warsaw wholly contained within District 3. It would remove about 75, give or take, population from District 1. It would take District 1 to -7 of the goal of 1580. It would bring the minority population from a 42.79 to a 41.8. That would be the differences in what you're seeing on the screen right now. If that's the map that the board wanted to choose to advertise for a public hearing.
Andrew?
I think he's talking about, what he's talking about is if they took that little block of walnut and put it up in the other one,
Take that and put it in District 3.
to make the town of Warsaw vote as a unit.
All in District 3, right.
Don't we have to have a separate polling place for the 100 people?
Well, I'm just saying, it's not one
Potentially.
we're physically
Yeah.
seeing, it's just proposed.
Right.
But it seems to me to be the practical way to do,
It's really
sort of
just
eliminate that.
leaving that small portion of it.
That eliminates the separate polling place deal, it encourages it.
Move forward with that language.
It would
Just
eliminate,
eliminates it.
Okay.
it would eliminate the,
Have a separate polling
Yeah.
place for 100 people.
because that district's polling place is within the town. Now, if that district voted outside the town, they would have to have something maybe in, but it's already, I think we can work within
The
that,
percentages don't adjust that much.
a point.
1%.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we do this? Chris will redo this map.
Mhm.
If it's outside of that 1% that you think it's going 1 point whatever percent, then you let us all know, we might have to get back together. If it's not, then we can have a motion to set the
Just so
public hearing.
Just so I'm clear, you're talking about that 1% from that 42.8
From
to
moving that one little block, if it doesn't mess up more than what you said,
a little, one give or take. So
Right.
give me 41.5. If it goes
Okay.
under 41.5, we'll come back to you. If it stays above 41.5, give me a little bit more than just a
Right.
percent.
is that,
That's
fine.
set
Okay.
then you need a motion to have the public hearing.
we need a motion to set the public hearing.
December 9th at 7 PM.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay,
I have two more things, please.
all right, well, thank y'all for coming, appreciate your input. Wait a minute, Bella, Morgan's got
I'm not
something.
going anywhere.
I got
Just
two more
adjusting.
things. Dave, we received an application, David. Pass this. We received an application earlier this week that was not included in the board packet. This is a nonprofit. This is the Richmond County Community Support Group, which was funded last year. Is that correct? Was funded last year.
Is this the one you thought was coming?
Yeah,
Richard?
yes, this is one item.
Okay.
Their request of $7,500.
I move we accept.
All right, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right, thank you. And my next would be to request that we set a additional public hearing for the disposition of property for parcel 33A,
December 7th, 9th.
December 9th.
So moved.
okay, thanks, Bob. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, anybody else, Bobby? Billy?
We want to keep Dominion.
I do have a
the
question.
7 PM session. If we've got
I'm glad you finally woke up.
My nap time is over.
do you make sure they're okay with that?
I just got mine, you didn't see me.
I've got a question for Gordon.
Yes, sir.
How are we progressing with that software to combine all the, maybe Chris is the one
Billy-
I ought to be talking to.
Billy's favorite question.
I just, we just need to get that. And,
We will.
Oh.
Yes, that is top priority for this fiscal year that we're in now.
okay,
One of the big things that I had asked Morgan if I could hold off until we got this sheriff's office project live, which we've done about a month ago. We working through a few issues with that, but yes, I'm hoping during the holiday time and certainly the very first part of the year, to be able to start focusing on that.
okay.
But in reality, we've started to a degree with the server upgrades and the new OpenGov permit software that all interfaces. So
we still, treasurer, commissioner, accounts payable, human resources, all needs the big transition. But we've started building puzzle pieces to it. It's just a big lump that is left outstanding.
I'm with you.
And
I just want to keep you on your toes.
I'd rather build a new building than go through a financial software changeover than getting everybody involved in the same piece of software, getting everybody to agree, getting everyone to use it. You hear so many horror stories of counties that go through software changeovers and they spend $400,000 and the system never gets used because people didn't completely buy into it. It's going to be a big deal. But we got to do it.
One thing, did y'all finish that one? Okay. Mitch was talking about a place to meet to do that class. The Coggin building would be an excellent place if there's something that would offer up.
Yeah, that would be a good space. We would have to, I haven't been to this building in Westmoreland that he's talking about, but I would imagine it's pretty outfitted with all of the necessary equipment.
Well, that's what he said this morning, that it had internet and all the equipment that they needed to do it. It was already set up.
Just a thought.
Well,
The classroom that we currently use for our smaller classes down at the, behind the extension office, has been a good building, but it's about a capacity of about 10 or 12 people. We've got a TV and they've been using it well, but I think for a bigger class, I think he's looking for a little bit more.
I was just thinking
But
that
it's an
was
option.
all right, anybody else? Then we're in recess. Cool. No, we're adjourned. I'm
Wait a
sorry.
minute, are we recessed?
No, I'm adjourned.
You're adjourned.
We're adjourned. Andrew, thank you for coming. Appreciate your help.
It's a beautiful day, now you get to go out and enjoy it. Well, I guess I'll see you later.
I will. I'm gonna send you. Let me send you some stuff. I know it's probably worrying you.